Bob Crane had everything an actor could hope for in the 1960s. With his natural charm, perfect smile, and quick wit, he became a household name as Colonel Robert Hogan in the hit sitcom Hogan's Heroes. His role as the clever leader of Allied prisoners in a German PAOW camp earned him 2 Emmy nominations and immense popularity. But Bob's career didn't begin on television. Before hitting the small screen, he was already a beloved figure in radio. Hosting a morning show on KNX radio in Los Angeles, Crane quickly became known for his sharp humor and ability to interview celebrities with ease. His success in radio paved the way for acting roles, including a guest appearance on The Dick Van Dyke Show, which led to even bigger opportunities. His future in Hollywood seemed limitless, but there was more lurking behind the scenes. The actor behind the smile. Despite the apparent success, Bob Crane's personal life began to unravel even as his television career soared. His charm and humor were beloved by audiences, but close friends noticed a change in him. Crane had developed a growing obsession with something far removed from the world of television and radio: photography. What started as a hobby soon became an all-consuming passion. He began filming intimate, often controversial content with friends and strangers alike, using his celebrity status to lure others into his personal world. His growing fixation on filming and recording began to strain relationships with those around him, including his wife, Ann Terzian, whom he had been married to for more than 20 years. His obsession affected his ability to focus on his work, and by the mid-1970s, his once promising career began to decline. The Dark Turn. Friendship with John Carpenter. In the mid-1960s, Crane met John Henry Carpenter, a video equipment salesman, and the two quickly became close friends. Carpenter introduced Crane to the latest technology, and the two men started spending more and more time together, often filming and recording private moments. At first, this seemed harmless, just a shared interest in new gadgets. However, as time went on, their friendship took a darker turn. Carpenter, who was closely involved in the production of Crane's videos, began traveling with him to bars and nightclubs, and the two often seemed inseparable. But for those close to Crane, it was becoming clear that his obsession with filming was affecting his personal life. His marriage to Ann Terzian ended in divorce, and his second marriage to Patricia Olson was also filled with complications. Yet, despite his troubled relationships, Crane continued his deepening bond with Carpenter, a connection that would ultimately have tragic consequences. The murder in Scottsdale. A shocking discovery. On June 29, 1978, just 2 weeks before his 50th birthday, Bob Crane's life came to a brutal and unexpected end. Crane was performing at the Windmill Dinner Theater in Scottsdale, Arizona, in a stage comedy called Beginner's Luck. That afternoon, his co-star Victoria Ann Barry went to check on him after he failed to show up for a scheduled lunch. When she entered his apartment, she found him lying lifeless in his bed with severe head injuries. Investigators believe the object used to strike him may have been a camera tripod, which seemed eerily fitting given Crane's obsession with recording. What baffled authorities was that there were no signs of forced entry into the apartment, and nothing appeared to have been stolen. The room was eerily calm, and it was clear that whoever had done this was someone Crane had trusted. As the investigation unfolded, it became apparent that Crane's private world had been more complicated than anyone had realized. The trial and acquittal, a wounded legacy. For over a decade, the case remained unsolved, with no charges filed and little hope of closure. In 1990, investigators reopened the case, hoping new DNA technology might shed light on what had happened. In 1992, John Carpenter was arrested and charged with the murder of Bob Crane. The trial, which began in 1994, brought the case back into the public eye, but it was far from straightforward. The prosecution argued that Carpenter was motivated by anger over Crane's decision to sever their friendship, presenting evidence such as blood smears in Carpenter's car and testimony from Crane's son Scotty, who claimed his father had spoken of ending the relationship with Carpenter. The defense, however, cast doubt on the evidence, questioning its reliabilities and suggesting that other individuals may have had a motive. After weeks of testimony, the jury ultimately acquitted Carpenter, and the case once again fell into limbo. Despite his acquittal, Carpenter's reputation was forever tarnished, and the mystery of Crane's death remains unsolved. The family's struggle and unanswered questions. The trial did little to bring peace to Bob Crane's family. For his children, the legal proceedings brought more pain than closure. Crane's son Robert described the experience of watching the details of his father's private life become a public spectacle. The trial focused not on Crane's work in television and radio, but on his personal struggles, overshadowing his contributions to the entertainment industry. Robert also noted the bitterness of learning that his father's estate had been left to his second wife, Patricia Olson, with no provisions for his children from his previous marriages. Although Olson was never considered a suspect in the case, the fact that she received everything from Crane's estate left his family feeling alienated and distrustful. Despite the legal proceedings, the questions surrounding his death and the ongoing speculation about his relationships continued to haunt his family long after the trial ended. Hollywood's quiet response and the legacy of Bob Crane. In the years following Bob Crane's death, Hollywood's response to his legacy was muted at best. His co-stars from Hogan's Heroes mourned him publicly, but as time passed, Crane's name was increasingly associated with scandal rather than his talent. Reruns of Hogan's Heroes slowly disappeared from the airwaves, and Crane's legacy as a television star faded into the background. For his family, this was perhaps the most painful part of his death. The man they knew, a funny, warm, and talented individual, was reduced to a symbol of controversy and mystery. His achievements, both in radio and television, were overshadowed by the tragedy surrounding his final years. His contributions to entertainment were forgotten by many, and instead, he was remembered primarily for the dark cloud that had enveloped his life. The case revisited, new DNA evidence, and frustration. In 2016, new advancements in DNA testing provided another chance to solve the mystery of Bob Crane's death. Phoenix reporter John Hook gained permission to test blood samples taken from Carpenter's rental car, hoping to uncover more concrete evidence. The tests revealed 2 male DNA sequences, but one was too degraded to provide a conclusive result. The remaining DNA samples were exhausted, and further testing became impossible. This discovery provided only limited progress, leaving the case in limbo once again. For Crane's surviving family, the frustration of living with unanswered questions only deepened. Robert Crane, who wrote a book about his father's unsolved murder, admitted that closure seemed impossible. The pain of his father's death lingered, with no clear resolution on the horizon. Remembering Bob Crane, a tragic end to a comedy legend. Despite the controversies that surrounded his final years, Bob Crane's legacy as an entertainer remains significant. His work in Hogan's Heroes and his achievements in radio helped shape American pop culture, and his quick wit and charisma won him a devoted following. However, the events surrounding his tragic death have forever altered how he is remembered. His legacy is now intertwined with the unresolved mystery of his murder, overshadowing the joy he brought to millions. For his family, the search for answers continues, but the truth may never come. Bob Crane's story is a haunting reminder of how fame, obsession, and scandal can rewrite the life of even the most beloved stars.